Croeso. This is James, aka JP Harker, coming to you with another video. Still using the fairly new thing, so do please bear with me. Today I'm going to be looking at a couple of the books I've been reading recently. Now, I've only got one to actually flash up, which is this one, because the other one was on Audible. Audible, as an audio book. I'll get there one day. Now, what I read on Audible was Bloody Rose, which is the sequel to Kings of the Wild. And what I read here is Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman. Now we're going to do Bloody Rose first. I'm going to start off, the author is a capable author, and the world is a good world, and the writing is not bad by any means. But I did not enjoy Bloody Rose, even though I really did enjoy Kings of the Wild. And I think it's the premise at the centre of it is sort of the problem. The world is a fantasy medieval world and is a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek look at fantasy worlds. We have all the fantasy monsters and such like, and order is kept by these mercenary bands. And what makes the story setting unique is these bands are described and act like rock bands. And they have sort of rock band type names, and they have a front man and a booker, and everything is based on the life of a rock band. And it's a fun idea, and I really like it. And the first book is Kings of the Wild, and it follows Saga, this old band that's broken up, and they're now getting on a bit. They've all broken up into their various different homes. One of them has a daughter who is kidnapped, and for this noble cause, the band gets together again for one last ride. And it's fun. They're clearly not in any condition to be doing this anymore, or most of them aren't. I think one of them still is. And they battle through regardless, and they bumble along, and they're grumpy old men, and they don't really want to be doing this. And it's a really enjoyable book. It's got enough seriousness that you can be invested in the story. The world is built well enough that... Side note, I have issues with Terry Pratchett. I get that it's meant to be silly, but I can't get invested because I'm just waiting for the next joke. In this world, it's just serious enough that I can be invested. And so I really enjoyed it. And they say there's a sequel. I'll give that a go. And the sequel is Bloody Rose. And to me it failed on a fairly central point, which wasn't really resolved, or didn't begin to be resolved until quite late on. And it's that Saga was an old band of has-beens who were in no condition anymore, but they come back into the fight for a noble cause. Now that's something you can get your teeth into. The new band, Fable, is a band at the height of its powers, and we meet them when they're on a quest for glory. And it's all very self-centered, and Rose is, for most of the book, obsessed with beating her father's reputation. That isn't something I can get invested in. That isn't appealing, that isn't endearing. And because of that, I struggled to really get on board with it. When the character's central motivation is selfish, even if you can sympathize with the psychology, it's hard to grow up in a legendary father's shadow, and the characters do get some development and complexity as we go along. When we're starting off very selfish, it's difficult to get on board with the story, and by the time it's gotten to a point where they're doing something that's even a little bit selfless, I've kind of lost interest. Now, I'm not saying that can't be done. You can meet someone and not like them and slowly grow to respect them. But that didn't happen with Rose. I didn't care through most of the book. And by the time she did anything worthwhile, it was too late. And because of that, I really didn't enjoy it. I was sort of marking time until it was over. And my other, small again, side note, my other issue is there's quite a flaw in her initial plan, whereby she's taken a contract to kill this semi-mythical beast that no one's seen and no one really knows if it's real or not, on the grounds that once we've done this, I'll beat my father's reputation. And when they go to do it, they're trying to do it with no witnesses, to kill a beast that nobody knows what it looks like. So even if you come back with this thing's head, who's going to believe that it's this mythical beast? It doesn't work as a motivation of, here's what I'm going to do because it will give me this reputation. No, it won't. No one's going to believe you. But, I digress. It sounds like I'm slagging this off as a completely bad book, and I can't call it a bad book because it isn't badly written, and bits of it are very funny. But to me, it was a book that I couldn't connect with, or with which I could not connect. And because of that, I have to give it a fairly low rating, I'm afraid. So, Bloody Rose, if you enjoyed Kings of the Wild, normally you'd say, if you liked book 1, try book 2. Depending on why you liked Kings of the Wild, maybe try this, but go in with a dash of cynicism is what I would say. There we go, I'm going to leave that one there. Next off is this, is Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman, because I finally caved into my sister's pestering. And I have a mixed opinion when it comes to Neil Gaiman's work. Like a lot of people, he's good at writing and his ideas are brilliant. But my enjoyment of his writing varies quite a bit. When I read Stardust, I really liked that. When I read American Gods, I really didn't. I could appreciate the thought that had gone into it and that it was a clever idea and that there were interesting things to look at. But I didn't enjoy the process of reading it or the story itself, just the idea. Now with Neverwhere, the light coming in sometimes reflects a bit off the cover, so I'll just flash it at random. With Neverwhere, it falls on the good side of that centre line. It's not incredible, but it was an engaging and enjoyable read. The setting, for them as don't know, is that there is a London below the London that we know of, and people slip through the cracks and end up living this strange life where Earl's Court is where there's a real Earl, and Blackfriars really has an order of Blackfriars there, and Knightsbridge is a bridge where a toll is paid and things like that. And it's a very fun world. I would like to have seen a bit more of it, because the plot it's alright, follows our fish out of water Richard Mayhew, who slips into this world, doesn't know what's happening, gets dragged along on an adventure with Dor, whose family have been murdered and she's trying to find out what's happened to them. And plot-wise it's okay, but the world is what makes it good. And the world, I would have liked to see more. And I would have liked to see more of some of the people, because it's such a good idea, such a good series of ideas, but so little of it is explored to the extent that I would have liked. Now, looking at characters, the villains of this, or the secondary villains, we don't find out about the real villain until quite late on. The villains of this, Mr. Croup and Mr. Vandermeer, they're really good. I really like them. They are villainous villains, but they're fun. And it's interesting and unique the way they operate, and I really liked them. I really liked the Marquis de Carabas, who is an enigmatic figure who is sort of puckish and has a tiny bit of moral compass, but who works for favours and has an interesting way of approaching problems. I liked him. The rest of them, they really could have done with some more development. They had potential, but they didn't have the same depth that those three did. And given how much I liked those three, I suspect I might have liked more of this, had there been more in it. Richard and Dor, who are our two central protagonists, wasn't really interested. Richard is alright, but he's basically just Arthur Dent. And Dor, she could have been so much more. She seems a little bit bland from what we've seen. And I could have done with some more depth. Angel Islington could have been fascinating. Didn't get as much time as I would have liked. Hunter, really interesting, but didn't get as much depth as I would have liked. So much potential there, and I felt like more could have been done. But there we go. Again, it sounds like I'm only highlighting the negatives. Overall, this is good. This is a good concept with a good story and a couple of really cracking characters, and I would recommend it, especially if you're a Neil Gaiman fan. I'm a middling, on the fence Neil Gaiman reader. So if you like Neil Gaiman, you go for it, and if you want to try his work, there's worse places to start than this. I'd start with Stardust. But no, I will recommend it, and I'm going to do a little side note on it. Again, this is largely at the instigation of my sister, who's a big fan of this. And I'm going to flash up this, which is the BBC series from the 1980s. I think it's the 1980s. It could have been early 90s. And this was fun, and I couldn't read this without reading it in the voices of the actors here. And sort of one of my favourite lines for a threat from Mr. Vandermeer is, we'll hurt you really bad before killing you even badlier. And for some reason that one really sticks with me. So, yeah, I'd recommend this. It misses out some of the details, of course it does. But weirdly, given my commentary on how much I'd want more details, I don't think it suffers from that, because you're just carried along by it, and there's so many good performances in it, again, mainly Groep Vandermeer and de Carabas, that you get invested and it's a bit of fun. So, have a look at that. I'm going to wrap up this rambling video now. Bloody Rose, maybe give that one a miss. I wasn't a fan. Neverwhere, give it a go, because as somebody who is lukewarm about Neil Gaiman, I thought it was really worth a look. So that's my take on it. I'm going to put these down here. I'm going to share a secret with you. I'm controlling the camera from here, which is why I subtly put things on one side of the desk there to mask the movement of my hand. You didn't spot a thing, did you? I think I shall leave it there on that moment of technical brilliance. This is James, aka JP Harker. Oil Vowed.